all the time. For Tasha, these were really not workable solutions for the amount of work that she wanted students to be able to put into this. Okay? So by serendipity, mostly, at the same time she was wrestling with this problem of how to work with her students on these skills that were her objectives and goals, we were at the same time looking at a tool that is pretty brand new. So I'm going to play this video for you about a product called Voice Vibes. So I'll tell you a little bit more about it after we watch the video.
Hi, welcome to Voice Vibes. Now that you are taking a class to learn the tricks and tips to being an effective public speaker, you will soon learn that just like mastering any skill, practicing will play a big part. That's where Voice Vibes comes in. Presentations are not only about the content of your message, but how you deliver that message. Voice Vibes is a software tool that analyzes your speeches and gives dashboard metrics to show how you sounded. Voice Vibes will help you improve your delivery, making you a more confident presenter. At a glance, you will see if your pacing was off in certain sections, or if you paused too much, or used words such as and far more than you should. Each practice session becomes a self-learning opportunity to improve, allowing you to click on the specific areas that scored below average, so you know exactly what to work on next time. Voice Vibes is like having your own private speaking coach. It's as simple as that. Practice with Voice Vibes and watch your scores improve. Have fun!
So what's your take on that?
How much?
Oh, you're going to tell us that
We'll
not desirable?
Well, yeah. So what's your take on that? The first time that I saw it, I got to say, it left me a little cold.
Really? It didn't leave me cold at all. I thought it sounded pretty... If it functions well, it's brilliant.
Remember, its goal is for you to be average.
It actually, I would not put. I think that if you're starting from a very low bar, yeah, that probably is pretty accurate. Yes.
How credible is the evaluation?
We've just started to play with it. We've met the head developer. She claims. Do you remember the?
We haven't just started. We're on our third semester.
No, I know, but we haven't heard much feedback yet from the faculty members as to how accurate they supposedly very accurate in these aspects.
Yeah, it's norm to American English for now. They're looking at expanding.
Yeah.
Getting to Rich's point, they're focusing on making you average. They actually have put in famous speeches from very, very well-known, eloquent speakers, and they don't necessarily do very well on Voice Vibes because they have a very specific cadence that they're known for. So you're right, it is going for that average, which is higher than a lot of your students.
They do well. The really great speakers do well. They're not outstanding. It's a little bit of the TV Midwestern kind of effect, right? But what?
I just think, in some ways it's disturbing. Are they going to make us all sound that happy voice that comes on introducing Voice Vibes? Because that's not when I'm from another place, right? There's an American false happiness.
That would be great if you could set it for like surly.
Well, actually, we had talked about this. So the people who have been pilot testing this so far. So as Adam said, this is our third semester, and we've got an agreement that is going to expire at the end of this semester, and we're going to figure out where we go from here from this pilot. We've had sort of two pools and a different pool that's starting right now. So the pool has been the School of Business, English as a second language, as well as this semester we're going to have folks in the Call 100 start to use it. So again, what I would say is, I think the people who've been really successful in talking to them about this is they give their students additional guidance, right? So you might want to say, really focus on something like upspeak. Let's try to get, you might give targeted practice cues for a particular student, Or you might want to just say your pacing. Just look at that pacing score and practice with that. See what that does for you. So it's an automated way of seeing, are you speaking too fast? There's all sorts of different varieties that they can look at, but the feedback from students has been outstanding. I thought that people might be a little off-put talking to an artificial intelligence that's analyzing their speech, and this is where that generational aspect might come in. They might be way more comfortable than you and I are with doing that. Yeah. Any other questions about voice vibes?
Are the students using this in like a soundproof room or in their dorm room?
You can do it with an iPhone.
Anywhere.
A nice quiet room is a good place to do it. You probably don't want to do it in the cafe that's loud or in the middle of your dorm room when your roommate's playing music. Yes.
So the people piloting this, are they, obviously the sound of your voice and your cadence and all that are important, but also eye contact and your posture and all that. Are they pairing this technology with also in practice, in-person practice?
Yes. Yeah. So this is one of the prongs that she's using for them to improve their public speaking.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's an interesting combination because I would start back with having students, because she was focused a lot on the idea of articulating clearly
Mhm.
and being concise and doing a good pitch. I mean, that's a writing activity initially.
Right.
This helps them with their delivery, and then I think you get to some of those aspects about the eye contact and
Yeah.
the presence. So it's like a nice bit of scaffolding or,
Yeah.
or stepping.
This is a great way to, like, when I spoke to several faculty members, it's like, you want to be a good tennis player, maybe you need to hit against the wall for a little bit, right? Before you get to play a full match. So we're running a little short on time, and let's look at, this is a little bit about what she did.
So one of the things that really stood out to me after I played around with it myself is that it was fairly user-friendly. And despite the fact that I teach in the business school and the perception is that we are very much attuned to technology and our students, this generation of student is very tech savvy, keeping in mind that my MBA students are a little bit older, so they're not typical millennials. I felt like it would not be an intimidating piece of technology to introduce to my students. A lot of the technology is still at the behest, if you will, of the faculty member to use and manipulate in class. There's some other things I've used, but this one really turned it over to the student, and they had the opportunity to use it themselves. So I think in some ways it addressed the specific need that I had around language and verbal repetition and practice, but it also introduced the students to a tool that was different than they'd used before. It gave them an opportunity to feel like they could master something like that within the framework of our course and see the impact of it on the work that they were doing while they were in the course. I got a lot of positive feedback from the students just in terms of I was able to practice on my own time frame. I didn't have to get together with a partner to practice because I've done that in the past, put your elevator pitch together and then meet with your partner. Everybody's busy, they have their own, challenges, time restrictions, and so again, this was an opportunity that they could do what they needed to do within their own time frame and get direct feedback. That was the other thing that I found very useful about the tool, is that it provided students with specific feedback on specific elements of their speech delivery. Because the students could practice as much as they wanted to, and I listened to their recordings, there were some who were very literal about that repetition, and then there were others who felt like probably, okay, I did a good job here. They probably paid attention to the feedback that the tool was giving them, and they felt like, okay, I'm okay. But it's really helpful developmentally for them to focus on some things. So I was able to give them very specific feedback that they could work on before they stood up in front of the class. Watch your pace, pay attention to the feedback you're getting on your tone, your speed, even the volume sometimes. I would pose questions like, where were you when you recorded this? You know, your voice was not, loud enough to make your point. Paying attention to all of those things. They talked about their experiences doing it with each other. They talked about the different aspects of feedback and where they felt like maybe the automated system was not giving them what they thought, or they felt like they did better, or they were surprised with the feedback they got. So there was some comparison happening within the class about that as we looked at the results across the class. So I felt like they were also thinking about the ways in which that kind of feedback, which we crave, quite frankly, and not to be overgeneralizing, but our millennials in particular like instant feedback. And so if in fact that's the case and we are one professor to 40 or 50 students, sometimes tools like this can really help fill the gap. And so I think that's another way that it could potentially be used. I haven't used it in one of my undergraduate courses. I teach an undergraduate leadership course where I have a similar assignment, and personal presence is very important, and speech acts and language is a part of that. So I'm already thinking of other spaces where I might be able to utilize it.
Okay, so I thought that this was a good example for today's workshop because she started out being very clear on what her objectives were for her students. Their learning outcomes were pretty clear. She just couldn't get from the starting point to that goal with the existing tool set. If you limit yourself to sort of monolithic LMS, you can do it. I mean, after working here for 20 years, I've seen Blackboard be used for all sorts of things. And you can sort of do it, but it's literally like, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So I think that this was a good example. She was able to navigate this, do a little exploration, and find a much better way of doing this. When I've done these sort of 3-column DLEs with sort of that are one of the many methods actually that sort of work with backward design, I almost feel like there should always be like a different column for the faculty's goals. Like, I don't want to look 20 years older at the end of this class, right? So, what are the limitations that we face as faculty members when we're teaching a class like this that can be really challenging, right? So if you added a column like that, that would weed out a lot of those tools, right? Just because certain things are not feasible. And so I think that this tool is a little bit of maybe like bicycle training wheels, where you can get the students up and going, you can get them over certain hurdles, and then you move on to the more sophisticated ways of having them develop their skills. Any questions about this or comments?
I just had a comment that I thought was really important. One of the things she said very early on that I would think most of us accept, but it's important to understand as we establish goals, is this, she referred to her first time through. And my experience in teaching is that those goals, I can't make those goals as clear as she does until I've gone through a course at least once.
Yeah.
And it's usually on the third time that things emerge very clearly to me. So it's almost like, the first 2 times are my voice vibe. Do you know what I mean? Where I'm fiddling with.
Sure. Your pacing and your volume.
Yeah,
right.
But so I just wanted to point that out that this is a longer process.
It's an iterative process for sure. And
I'm sure we're all aware of it.
we were just talking about online classes and how into the online classes we would like to build some iteration, right? There should be some updating that you're constantly doing. That updating might even happen during the semester, right? So almost everybody will tell students, this is my syllabus. It's a living document. It's apt to change as we move forward. Anybody else? Any questions, comments? So I was expecting somebody to say,
Thank you.
how many Voice Vibes licenses am I getting? Or we're working on that. If you're interested, come and talk to us. All right. So, oh, look at that. All right. Everybody who attended, we're going to send out a little package with some resources. We've got some of the people that we have as the people resources. Christy Walker in the back, who happened to be yawning there. I'm sorry, I caught you yawning. If you have any questions about any of the stuff that we're covering or anything about your courses, come and talk to us. The Eli office is in Morton Hall, first floor. Thank you for coming.